And it is 6:59 p.m.-ish Mountain Time. I'm Max. This is Max Rants because I rant, and I want to rant, really rant, with a piece I did about FICO. You know FICO, Fair Isaac Company? Maybe you don't know that. Or Fair Isaac Corporation. Any way you slice it, these are the bastards that set up credit score. And the credit score system serves the wealthy and screws everybody else. Countries like China and Korea and Japan have refused to install such things because they are nothing less than the roadway to digital and slavery. If you don't agree with me, that's fine. Let me tell you how it is. Turn on the teletype, please. Do you have a credit score? A FICO score? Are you proud of how high it is? Of how deeply you've been sucked into the morass of digital slavery? Today we live in an era where every human being in the country is distilled to a number, a social security number. Well, those numbers have become the basis of identification for your FICO score. Yeah, your credit score, you heard of that? Yeah, well, the FICO Corporation has assigned credit scores to damn near everybody. Kids as young as 15 often have a FICO score. Oh, but we're so proud we have this marvelous score. Well, people, you need to understand something. That score is your ball and chain. That score, depending on its size, shows how heavy, how light, how large, how small your ball and chain are. On arrival to the United States of America, after a 25-year absence, I was blown away to find out that FICO was there. Good God Almighty. I mean, as insidious as FICO scoring is now, I've learned that they plan to further tighten their grip. In the very next 5 to 10 years, they're going to start basing your score on social acceptability. Not just financial, but how often you go to church, where you go to church, what political parties you do and don't belong to. And they will use that to limit commerce, as they already have with FICO. Let's do a bit of history. Let's go back a little bit. It was in 1989 that FICO, the Fair Isaac Corporation, first floated the idea of a credit score. Credit scores were hailed and blessed under the leadership of none other than President George Herbert Walker Bush, Mr. No New Taxes. An interesting note is that William Fair and Earl Isaac, founders of the corporation and designers of the score, as well as virtually every FICO chairman since, have all been self-avowed communists. These have been men whose final solution to a free republic is socialism. They preached this message for decades. They all have, and throughout their checkered careers. In 1998, Earl Isaac, speaking at a gathering of the American Communist Party in New Jersey, said, and I quote, "It is evident that our system of government has granted too much freedom to too many people. Unchecked freedom is chaos. If we are going to achieve true socialism, we must better track the comings and goings, spendings and earnings of everyone. It is toward this goal that I, along with my colleague, Mr. Fair, propose a universal credit and finance scoring system. Cash, precious metals, and personal wealth form the very roots of this sick society. A financial scoring system will allow us to rate and qualify those deserving, to track those of whom we are unsure, and to punish those who are not." End quote. Both Isaac and Fair have made it clear on multiple occasions that their end game is conquest of the United States in order to prepare her people to be handed over to their new masters, whoever they may be. As the FICO monster marches on, it continues trampling the rights of Americans. Their sights are set on global domination, as admitted by Earl Isaac back in 1998. With the help of senators and congressmen on their payroll, and the blessings of President Bush, They've ramrodded their own brand of digital enslavement. Through credit assessments of their very own design, FICO has become so deeply rooted in American culture as to have become an American tradition. Sucks, doesn't it? Like so many frogs in a pot, we've sat still as FICO has slowly turned up the heat, beginning back in 1989. Of course, under the tutelage and with the blessings of George Bush, a man who held considerable financial interest in the FICO Corporation. Foresight being hindsight, Americans would never have stood for this betrayal. None would have tolerated FICO working hand in glove with communists and members of the deep state to enslave us as they have. Today, a FICO score is assigned to nearly every American over 16, and there are even some younger than 16 who also have a FICO score. In our history, millions of Americans have fought and died to oppose dangers far less insidious and threatening than FICO. Today in America, if anyone wants to rent a home, they need an acceptable credit score. If anyone wants auto, home, or life insurance, they need an acceptable credit score. If anyone wants a job of meaning, they need a credit score. People are hired, promoted, fired, and demoted based on their credit scores. Today, the dreaded FICO score has its hooks into every nook and cranny of our lives, reaching into and regulating even our most precious and private details. The people at FICO, which is arguably the least transparent organization in the world, have spoon-fed Americans their propaganda for decades. They would have you believe that a credit score is important and that it is based on the common sense criteria of lending money. They'll tell you that time on the job, time in residence, current debt levels, timely payment of loans and obligations all factor equally into one's credit score. This is a lie. They tell you that their credit scoring system protects lenders, landlords, employers, insurers, and even the American people at large. Again, another lie. The fact is that over 89% of a person's FICO score is based on timely payment of debt interest. Not debt, but the interest. Yep, they want you paying interest, not principal, and all other criteria are of little to no consequence. In 2000, the year 2000, an expose by the China Daily newspaper noted that in order to maintain a credit score of 740 or higher, that's a good rating, a person must pay at least $8,000 a year in interest. That's an interesting number. That boils down to $666.66 a month. 666.66. A higher score requires even more interest paid. For $10,000 a year, paid of interest only, you can have a credit score of 800. That's only $833.33 a month. There you go. The highest score possible is 850. But believe it or not, some poor schmucks out there are paying over $18,000 a year in interest payments alone to maintain this much coveted score. Yes, people, that's over $1,500 a month. That's going to interest-only payments. None of that's to principal. Why? So they can hold the holy grail, a credit score of 840 to 850. In another article published in the China Daily News in 2001, they condemned the unfairness of the FICO score in light of the Chinese government's decision not to allow FICO into China. In a quote from Wang Ji, that's the finance minister of China, he said, and I quote, "The advent of a financial lifestyle score such as FICO being imposed on the people is nothing less than digital enslavement. The People's Republic of China holds her people's freedoms to a higher value." End quote. Whoa! It's frightening to believe that communist China would hold their people's financial freedom to a higher value than does the United States. Most folks don't realize that this scoring system will one day encompass every aspect of their lives. So to all of you frogs in a pot out there, I say again, welcome to slavery. Welcome to FICO. I'm Max, and that's the way I see it.